Hello, this is Noah Frere with Noah Frere Astrology, and I'll be your lunar guide for OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology, for the next couple weeks, starting on April 19th or 20th, depending on where you are in the world, for the Aries total and hybrid solar eclipse. So it's a special day. You know, an eclipse, if you're at any given location on Earth, will only this time around last for about a minute. But if you could fly in an airplane and follow the eclipse, it would last for about 5.5 hours this time around. So although you only get, if you happen to be in the path of totality, a short period of time to completely digest the wonder and glory that a solar eclipse can give you, in fact, the whole day is really special, okay? It starts around 1:34 p.m. Universal Time, which is near the area of West Africa, and it ends around 7 p.m. that same day, which is tomorrow, or today if it's the 19th or 20th. So remember, your ephemeris, if you're looking at your specific ephemeris, might list a particular minute for the eclipse, like 12:12 a.m., for instance, in Knoxville, Tennessee. But that minute comes and goes only as the middle point of this longer extended period where the shadow of the moon is like gouging a path out along the earth. All right. Now, it is a hybrid eclipse, which means it's mostly a total solar eclipse where you can look directly without your eclipse glasses if you're near Australia and Indonesia and that part of the world. But there is in the middle of the ocean, in the beginning and the end of this 5.5 hour period, it for a little short period of time becomes an annular eclipse, which is different. It's the moon's too far away to completely block the disk of the sun, and therefore you can see like a ring of fire around the moon itself. So instead of going into all the planets are doing today during this new moon, we'll talk about the meaning of an eclipse in general, and then we'll hit up a little bit of this specific eclipse as well. So in a solar eclipse, your innermost self, or the sun, is momentarily hidden. The sun represents consciousness itself. It's not really embodied or physical. It's the vitality which gives you life. But it's hidden by the moon. You can't see it. Where did you go? While the psyche, you might say, the totality of your mind and functionings, and even your body in some ways, it's the psyche is like brings your body into play. That's represented by the moon. Suddenly, this dark moon is in full view. Normally, the new moon is completely hidden, but not during an eclipse. That's why they're so special. There you are. You were hidden, but now you can see. But you're not seeing your normal self, that sun that's too bright to look at. You're seeing this dark moon. Now, it's not the dark side of the moon you're seeing. It's the same side of the moon you would normally see, but you can't see any features on it because the sun's on the other side of it. So there's a bunch of, everything is reversed, like who you are, what you feel. There's this opportunity to take things from a totally different point of view. The full light of the sun is not shining on the whole earth anymore since there's a shadow covering part of it, but it's being reflected from the moon, from the dark side of the moon, directly back onto the sun. So your hidden psyche is seen by your essential awareness, if you can make sense of that. It's a way of perfectly coordinating your feelings with your life essence. Our unconscious is being called into view. In general, all new moons do this, but it's a different order of magnitude when it's an eclipse, because only then is the dark moon actually made visible. So while the usual conception of ourself appears hidden by the moon during the eclipse, because the moon is literally blocking it, turning day into night, yet just as the corona, which is that outflowing of heat beyond the confines of the moon, appears like bright and glorious when you take off your eclipse glasses during totality, your essential being appears as the more hidden part of yourself, or vice versa. A certain part is revealed which is not otherwise noticed. Now, this is the second new moon in Aries in a 30-day period. It's a rare event. It hasn't occurred since 2004, and it's tied into the 19-year Botanic cycle. It'll probably happen again in 19 years, but I haven't fact-checked that yet. Since Aries and new moons are both about new beginnings, this indicates that the eclipse, which can in general bring great beginnings or great endings, might lend itself more towards beginnings rather than endings. However, since this eclipse is also in the final or anaretic degree of Aries, and not only that, but it's very close to the end of that final degree, this sounds like maybe it's the end of a beginning, or perhaps the beginning of an end. It's a little more complicated than just a straight up beginning or a straight up end. It almost sounds ominous, doesn't it? But does it have to be? No. Perhaps there are some rather unpleasant things in your life that you'd be happy to see go away forever. I know there are for me. Even if it means running them off the side of the road. Now, or maybe the car runs off the side of the road. Okay, just make sure you're not in the car when that happens. And that's the main thing. Don't be in the car when it goes off the side of the road. Ask yourself, where are you currently situated in the uncomfortable parts of your life? And please excuse these war analogies. Are you in the middle of a battle zone? Then you may want to find a way towards the edge of the zone so that you can exit when the bomb explodes. Or perhaps, since eclipses can bring up the shadow in so many ways, both literal and physical, it's time for you to go deeper into some dark realm, to shake up some things in your life that are too comfortable. In that case, you'll want to jump into the car just before it heads off the cliff. But don't worry, since this isn't a literal car, it's not a death sentence, it's just an opportunity to transform the facade into something more real. Unfortunately, Pluto squares this eclipse, so we have plenty of impetus towards that end anyway. Now, let's not forget about the Taurus piece of this eclipse. Even though it's in Aries, the north node of the moon is in Taurus. Although there may be some fireworks over the next few months thanks to the Aries eclipse, you are being asked to lean into something Venusian. Take that car wreck and hang it on the wall as a piece of art. Or in the words of the Joker, you've got to crack some eggs before you make an omelet. For some reason, as a pacifist, I've talked about war today, and as a vegan, I've talked about eggs. Let's just leave it up to the eclipse to answer that one. Mercury is also just barely moving in Taurus right now, and just the day after the eclipse, he will stop moving entirely. This can bring a concentration of the mind, this motionlessness. In Taurus, think of your mind as the eternal thought body of the divine, that which neither arises nor falls away, but underlies every thought you've ever had or ever will have. Then Mercury will turn around and move backwards. He will then, or she, will join Ceres as the only major planet or asteroid traveling retrograde. All the rest are in forward motion right now. The most interesting thing about this, though, is that in 2 weeks, we'll have another eclipse, this time a lunar one, with the sun sitting exactly at that point where Mercury turned around, 15 degrees Taurus. So I'll leave that for the next lunar guide to talk about, but it is something to note. So thank you for exploring this Aries eclipse with me and with OPA.